11:22. Your thoughts, is Baylor, in your opinion, and give us examples of when a stepping stone school? Because if we look at the history, and we just went over a lot of them, that doesn't mean there haven't been coaches that have moved on, but it seems like most of the time they move on because they're not successful and or they're forced to leave. Kim Mulkey to LSU is not a stepping stone. It was a unique opportunity. So 254-339-1122, Art Briles, that was courted by Texas and vice versa. Didn't leave. Matt Rule absolutely left and said pretty much the whole time he was here that the NFL was a goal in life, and he got the opportunity in a huge, massive contract with Carolina. 254-339-1122, that's the number to call.
All right, T-Rex, you're on SicEm365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. Hope y'all having a good Tuesday. I know it's probably raining just as much down there. Luckily, the sun's shining right now, so we'll take advantage of it here in a couple minutes. This whole talk about stepping stones, I feel like the main example, and you've touched on it a few times now, y'all just mentioned it again, that everyone wants to go back to is Matt Rule. But that's one coach. That's, the exception should never make the rule. And he never lied to us about it. I mean, he was interviewing, like you said, basically, after going 1-11, he was interviewing with the NFL. That was his dream, and by all means, Baylor wasn't ever going to pay him that much money, obviously. So, he never lied about it, and I just don't understand if there are those out there that think that Baylor's a stepping stone, athletic program or athletic department, however you want to put it. I don't know what examples you can provide to prove that argument. Like, y'all mentioned right before the break, all these coaches that have been here for years. We still have coaches that have been here for years. I just don't know why we think that. And even if we were a stepping stone program, then that means that coach was doing something good while they were here to be able to go to the next step. You don't get to take the next step in anything you do unless you're successful. So, if being a stepping stone program brings me a national championship in the fall, then, hey, I'm right here. I'll be the stone. Step all over me because I want a natty. But I just don't know why there's anybody that thinks we're a stepping stone. Anyways, SicEm Bears, keep up the good work. Shout out to Up Tempo. Yesterday was their 100th episode. Y'all are still better than Drake and JD could ever be. Definitely Paul's a lot prettier than Drake and JD. SicEm Bears, love to hear y'all's feedback. Anybody else got anything to say about it, but I just don't know how we're a stepping stone.
Thank you,
but like
T-Rex.
I said, if it brings us to the natty, then step all over me.
Appreciate the time. No one specifically sent a text or brought that up. I'm the one that did, based on that there are a lot of schools that are smaller or private schools or smaller schools that are. And I think the perception, if I was to put this up on Twitter, if I put that question up on Twitter, I guarantee you 75% of the people would react just because of the size of Baylor. And then I would ask them at the same time to give me an example, and it would be ... Because as we've made it clear, Grant Taft was, Southern Cal absolutely wanted to go, hey, come out here. Didn't work out. He stayed at Baylor. Art Briles had Texas, didn't work out. Matt Rule had the NFL, that worked out. And like I said, it's 32 of those jobs in America and the world. But for the most part, they're not. Although there was always that Art Briles might leave, you don't really hear that with Gary Patterson. You kind of had seen Gundy on occasion. He's kind of, thrown it out there that he might be disappointed or unhappy or whatever, and has at least put his name in the mix on occasion. That might be as much his agent as anybody else.
Well, first of all, Gary Patterson has everything he'd ever want, and he can say or do anything he wants.
But so do the coaches at Baylor.
TCU. Well, you said nobody comes after him, but, he does that, and then, his personality is also not one that people are going to court.
I could put up with a personality if he's going to be really, really good. I don't think he would definitely not be able to coach in the NFL.
No, he gets his feelings hurt too easily.
There's a lot of college coaches that have that kind of that mentality.
Yeah.
Briles was a little tender.
Oh, come on though. Gary's the most ridiculous when it comes to that.
Every
loss in the post game, it's they were watching our practices or they were doing, it's always something with him. He's a big whiny baby.
Yeah, Ahmad Dixon hurt my feelings.
Yeah,
come on. That's Yeah,
he loves to take a shot when it's when he gets a chance to. Let's go down south. Meanwhile, Casey Pajas peddling drugs on campus, but whatever, glass houses and all that. GP.
Yeah.
Garland Bear 84. I don't think there are many examples, and I agree. Our first great track coach, Patterson, left for UT. Our soccer coach, who led us to a Big 12, left for Notre Dame. That's it. But I guarantee you the national, not that we care, but it does bring into play a conversation. The national perception would be yes, and then name them, and you can't.
Well, I think the bigger question is, okay, if that's a national perception, which I don't think that's held by everybody, but probably, we know how the Ohio States and the Oklahomas of the world are treated. They are treated a little bit differently. They get more mulligans than the small schools do because the media treats them that way. But I think the bigger question would be, okay, if you are, which I don't think they are, but if you are, then how do you change that? Well, how about go win a men's basketball national championship?
There you go.
Hey, there you go. It's all dude, all it comes down to is winning. It's very simple. Mm-hmm. It's all about winning. The money aspect, that comes when you win. It still might come even when you're not winning, but when you win, I guarantee you the money's going up. The facilities, guess what? When you win, they get better automatically. The recruits, they get better automatically. So, that's what it boils down to is winning. And so, how do you stop being a stepping stone? Well, you win big titles, and they won one. Now I think the only missing piece for Baylor right now is a little bit of consistency in a couple of sports that have struggled over the last couple of years. Like softball, it would be good to see them get back on track and be competing with the Oklahomas and the Oklahoma States and the Texases who are all dominating the softball in the Big 12. But outside of programs who have had success in the past and maybe haven't had it the last couple of years, like baseball missing, the postseason's not great. But go out and win, and most of all, have some stability in football. Because they have not had stability in football. Even when Matt Rule's here, they weren't stable all the way. They have not had stability since 2015, early on in the season. We're in 2021 right now. It's been 6 years of instability.
No, you're right.
So
yeah.
Any weaknesses, any chinks in the armor, anything like that Baylor Athletics has, it's not being a stepping stone. It's just they need to get some consistency primarily in football.
How about how much did the men's basketball championship, when there will be down the road, whether it's in 2, 3, 5, or 9 years, you always get that fear. I get this from Baylor fans a lot about the possibility of the next super realignment. How much does that men's basketball championship come into play?
Yeah.
Because most of the time we think of only football.
I'm sure that one day a super realignment's going to come, but to me, it's also it's
how much, if in fact there's any kind of realignment, which
it helps.
We never thought there would be any in the first place. How much does that help at all?
I think it helps.
Yeah, but I think at the same time, you're asking a question of people who we have no idea what their method of thinking is. So for all the pro Super League people, Baylor's out. Baylor could win 5 football national titles in a row, and they're probably still not getting invited. That's the thing. That's where they are. If stepping stone's not the right word, but a smaller school, yes. So I think it's the country club. They're not a part of the country club. So you got to either find membership, which is winning football national titles basically, or multiple men's basketball national titles. And there's really the only 2 ways to do it, or you just hope you're lucky because you're not on the invite list, the immediate invite list.
When we come, we got a call. We got a call. We're going to have Susie Snyder Eppers, join us in the next segment. Babe Laufenberg in 4.
All right, Mark in Chattanooga. You're on SicEm365 Radio.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing today?
Doing good.
I'm good.
Good. Listen, of course, I think Baylor's not a stepping stone school. It's one of the premier programs for any Christian coach to come coach at. You can lead out in your faith in Jesus and find you won't be able to do that other places. There are some places like Clemson with Dabo Swinney where he can lead out in his faith, and I think that's great. But you look at, what Scott Drew's done and with the Jesus, others, yourself, and the playing with joy, and I just don't think you can do that at many other schools. Like even TCU, I don't really think they do that at all. So I think Baylor's a stable school though and has stable programs. Scott Drew's been here for a long time. Kim Mulkey was here for a long time. I know she just left, but that was a extenuating circumstance. And even Steve Smith in baseball was here for a long time. I got 2 quick things to ask you guys. One, I want to ask about the Baylor offensive line. It seemed last season the offensive line struggled with Wickline at the helm. Was this strictly a coaching issue, or is it due to the fact that they didn't have a good offensive line scheme last season for the linemen, you think?
I think it was talent and it was coaching together. I mean, I think the talent wasn't that deep. I don't think, and you saw that, and they're the first group that got hit with COVID, and who knows how much that affected, guys down the line and not really getting back to full strength. So yeah, I do think that
What was the last time they were good in the offensive line?
It's been a couple years.
Was Randy Clements?
Randy Clements in 16, and even that year, of course, blew up a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's a great question and a great point, Mark. I do think that maybe Joe Wickline was just not a bad fit. No, it was not a good fit. I don't know why. It's not like he's been around the other places as well. Man, their offensive line has been an issue. Even the 11-3 team struggled at times on the offensive line. I do think, though, that they just still don't have enough dogs. I'm talking meat grinders, and maybe that's what Eric Mateos and company's trying to fix.
Well, when Matt Rule came in, he had to throw a lot of offers out and just try and fill the roster. And this past national championship in FCS, there were 3 Baylor offensive linemen on the Sam Houston roster that were Matt Rule recruits. So there's 3 players that should be on your O-line and be like sophomores, juniors with experience that aren't even on your roster. So that hurt your depth. Then you have young guys who you're throwing to the fire basically because now they have to be a part of the depth rather than when you had it the way it's supposed to be, where unless you're some 5-star stud, 4-star true freshman that's just, you can't keep them off the field, you redshirt those guys. And they've been able to kind of do that, but then again, kind of not. Because injuries come into play. So I think it's a combination of misses in recruiting. I think it's a lack of talent overall. Connor Galvin's good, but Xavier Newman's not nearly the player that we thought he would be at this stage in his career 5 years in. And a lot of other guys are just kind of okay. So lack of talent, lack of consistency. I think coaching with Wickline came into play somewhat, but I just think the coaching on the offensive side last year in general with Fedora was just poor to begin with. So I don't know how much of a chance they really had offensively last year. So it's a combination of things. It's nothing that can't be fixed, but it is going to take some time.
All right, good stuff. Thank you. Gary gone from Chattanooga?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I know you had a follow-up.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary, if you want to text us. Mark in Chattanooga. If you want to text us, 254-339-1122. We'll respond to that.